So let's add some other objects to our scene. So far, we really just been using buttons and labels and things like that, but let's talk about some of the other different things we can use. So for example, if we click the object library, it's going to pull up this menu, and we can scroll through and see different things. So we have a label, a button, we have something called a segmented controller, which allows you to have basically multiple buttons that are selectable. Text field, which we've used, a slider, and whenever I drop a slider in, we'll just take a look at that. We're not going to talk about how to explicitly use these in code, just how to use them in the attribute editor, and then later we'll be linking them to code. Switch, I'll drag and drop that in. And we have a stepper as well for a plus and minus. And then we have a bunch of things that are different views, and these arrange different elements within your screen. So the stack view and the vertical view, or the horizontal stack view and the vertical stack view. Basically, what these allow you to do is just distribute and align objects within your view. We'll get into those a little bit later. And then we have an image view where we can add an image, table view where we could have cells. This would be things like, you know, your note list on the Notes app, or maybe your music library list. Table views add quite a bit of complexity. We may not get to them in this class. Text views for displaying a lot of multiple lines of edited text. Scroll view lets us basically contain a bunch of things within and scroll around them. We have these different pickers, which can be really fun. And then we have a bunch of kit views, which we're not going to be using. And then some things related to navigation. So if I click off of this, we have these different buttons here. So we have a switch, a horizontal slider, and we have the stepper. And as I click each of these, you can see in the attribute editor we have the default state, so whether it's off or on. You can see that change over here. Here, I'll zoom in a bit so it's a little bit easier to see. We have the alignment, all the typical things, and basically that's all we really need to look at here. The other thing, we just need to make sure that user interaction is enabled. This checkbox is checked. It should be by default. Down below that, we have the slider, and with the slider, we have the value, which is the starting value of the slider, what the minimum value is, and what the maximum value is. So let's say we wanted the minimum value to be 1, the maximum value to be 100, and the starting value to be 50. That's going to change how these values are sent to the code. We can also have an image appear whenever it's on the minimum or the maximum. We can change the colors, so as it's moved down and up, it'll change colors. You can see that once it went below that number. There's all kinds of different things we can play with here. I'm just going to leave that on the default. And continuous updates. And again, once again, we have that user interaction enabled. Now, as I keep scrolling down, I have my stepper. My stepper works just like the slider. I have a value that it starts at, a minimum and a maximum value, and then the step. So each time they tap this, what are we adding to that value?